In high-level competitive Pokemon, it is highly recommended to have an electric immune, which either could be from Volt Absorb or being ground type, that sort of thing, for the express purpose of blinking moves such as Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, and Thunder Wave. It's really useful to have that immunity because it makes those otherwise really irritating electric attacks significantly more manageable. By that same logic, you also want to have some sort of status absorber. For example, Spore does not work on grass-type Pokemon, and it's very dangerous for being 100% accurate and having Sleep, meaning that you're guaranteed to at least get one free turn, and it can be really irritating to deal with. As a result, in Scarlet and Violet Overused, if we look at the viability rankings, Goldengo, Garganacl, both of which have abilities that make them immune to status moves, are very popular, as well as Great Tusk, which is an electric immunity. If we go down to A rank here, we notice that Hatterene, which has Magic Bounce, another ability that blocks status, is also very popular, in addition to the ground-type Tinglu. A- rank, we have Amoonguss, which is immune to Spore and can spread it itself, Clodsire and Garchomp, which are both ground types immune to electric-type moves, as well as a little bit of, in B+ rank, you have Iron Treads, Breloom, Meowscarada. It's very understandable that having these very valuable immunities because of their grass or ground typing makes for very good Pokemon. This could be seen even all the way down in Little Cup with Toedscool, despite its very lackluster offensive presence in 40 base attack and 50 base special attack, which is pretty terrible. It has quite the niche. If we go to the viability rankings for Scarlet and Violet Little Cup, it's currently A+ tier. Even with Gastly as the tier king, I don't think this placement shifts very much. It hasn't changed since Girafarig meta, but it's proven time and time again how valuable it is on a game-to-game basis and how consistent it is as a Pokemon. So I want to go over that, despite the fact that Girafarig is no longer in the tier, what makes Toedscool so valuable all the time? Well, first and foremost, it's got quite a few sets, and it's pretty interesting. First, you can do whatever you want with your EV spread. Do you want to be more physically frail but have a lot more options offensively? Do you want to have a purely physical spread that's more defensive? Do you want to run a specially offensive set that has a less attack investment to be more bulkier? It's got an insane amount of flexibility, and it's frankly really ridiculous all the stuff it can do. Its base stat total's also pretty respectable. 40 HP and 35 defense are nothing special, but having a pretty alright, it's nothing fantastic, but it's an alright special attack stat, a fantastic special defense stat, I'm pretty sure it's the highest in Little Cup, as well as a really nice speed stat that gets up to level 5 up to 17 speed, which means that you outspeed a lot of threats, and you still have a lot of flexibility there. If you don't want to run max speed, you don't have to. If you want to invest more in bulk, be more defensive, not have to worry about speed so much, because, I mean, you can still have 14, and that's not bad by any means. Like, oh, well, I want to be more physically defensive. Go for it. You have a lot of flexibility in what exactly you want to do with your Toedscool spread. It's pretty ridiculous. But let's go over the moves. Earth Power, Knockoff, Rapid Spin, Power Whip. The most important that are going to be on every set, or at least should be, are Knockoff and Rapid Spin. Knockoff removes items, while Rapid Spin removes hazards, which is exceedingly good team support in only 2 moves. Knockoff is exceedingly valuable because of the item Eviolite, which boosts your defense and special defense by 1.5 times. Even if you have, even if it does 1 damage. Well, now it's opened up for the rest of the game. It has a significantly less bulk over the course of the entire game, which means that it can be more easily worn down, well, as in whatever you hit with Knockoff. And also, it even helps with Toedscool getting over some checks, so that way Earth Power and Power Whip can do more damage over the course of the game. Now, with that being said, Earth Power is really good coverage, and it's really hard to resist because of Earth Power being a specially offensive move. It can be really easy to just burn Toedscool because you think it might be purely physical, something to that degree. It's like, no, I have Earth Power, it's whatever, I can take it. Power Whip is also a really nice option. It's very often used for the Toedscool mirror, because one of the best checks to Toedscool is Toedscool, which is, fair, a little bit unhealthy. That's one of the big reasons why Girafarig got banned, hoo boy. But it's significantly more balanced on Toedscool because it has a significant amount of opportunity cost. It makes you worse if you're burned. You can't do too much with a burnt Power Whip because you're basically hitting with a wet noodle of 40 attack. And then even the reason why Power Whip's so good is because it's got 120 base power. By burning, you're having that. It's not going to be a good time. But having Power Up is still really nice coverage. It still allows you to hit ground types. It allows you to hit water types. It's really valuable. You can also run a purely physical set, not worry about using Earth Power, whatever, so that way you can invest solely into your attacking stat, so that way you don't have to spread them between attack and special attack. It all depends on how you want to run it. You also can have Spore, which causes the target to fall asleep, which is really, really annoying, combined with Mycelium Might, which means that you ignore abilities. So stuff like Hatterene, Golden Go, Garganockle, that kind of stuff that would rely on the abilities to otherwise blank Toedscool, they can't do that anymore, and it was really, really annoying to deal with. The issue is that it makes it go last. So if you use Spore and you're faster than your opponent, it'll go last, which can be really, really exploitable because, you know, you can just U-turn out of there or go into something that's otherwise can take this on really well. So, but it's still really fantastic utility if you ever manage to get your opponent on that, because that means you get at least one turn that's completely free. And that's on baseline. You can get up to 3, get 1 turn, 2 turns, or 3 turns, and you only have to use 1 turn of your own. It's really scary to face down. If you want to, you can also run the Specially Offensive set, which has access to Giga Drain, which makes it one of the most insufferable mods to deal with. Because congratulations, you may have knocked it off and done a whole bunch of damage, but it can just recover it off anyway. So there's that! So you can't do with Toedscool even by wearing it down passively. You have to actively go after it if it's running Giga Drain. And you lose the Toedscool mirror because Giga Drain just recovers enough health back that you can't deal with it. And if you aren't running any grass coverage such as Power Whip and you want to go, oh, well, I want to run this, but I want to have Earth Power in the 4th slot, well, then you lose to other Toad, and Giga Drain makes it really hard to break over. So there's that. It's so fantastic in so many aspects, especially because it's got a really good typing. And I even went over and did a social media spotlight on that. Look out for that when you can. Because of how good, like, it's got a lot of really fantastic qualities as a result of the grass ground typing that it has. Grass gives it the immunity to Spore, as I mentioned before. Ground gives it the immunity to electric-type moves. It also forces Mons to Terra in order to be able to deal with it. You get to switch into Mons, like the ever-present Earthquake. It's so stupid how amazing the stab combination is, because in addition to those good resistances in ground-type moves and the electric immunity, you also can just hit a bunch of stuff because you want to. So there's that. But before I get into the main stuff that you want to hit, I should at least talk about what exactly checks you pretty well. First and foremost, Deerling, it absorbs Spore really well. It's faster than you on baseline because it gets up to 18 at level 5, so you can't outspeed it. It's bulky enough. It's got Synthesis. It can wear you down with Headbutt. It can be really annoying to deal with. I mean, it's still really good versus you, but it's not unbreakable. You also have Nimble. Oh, gosh. So Nimble is John Dark Souls of Little Cup. Essentially what it's supposed to do is that's supposed to come in, hit you with First Impression or U-turn or whatever, and just leave. It's not meant to stay in for very long, and it just can't get hit. But the funny thing is that its pure bug typing is really good versus Toedscool. You resist any grass stabs, such as Power Whip, such as Giga Drain. You resist Earth Power. You don't take too much from Knockoff or Rapid Spin because your defense stat's pretty alright. And you can threaten it back with a First Impression, Leech Life, or U-turn, which can be really hard to punish. So there's that. You also have Larvesta, and Larvesta's the closest you get to a hard counter. Maybe it still gets slept by Spore, but the problem is with Larvesta is that it can flame body you, so if you try to knock it off, you get hard punished by being burned, and even if you're not running purely physical, you don't appreciate the passive damage, as well as your knockoff and rapid spin becoming even weaker. It can U-turn out, it can Morning Sun up, so that way it doesn't have to be at low health anymore. It can also Will-O-Wisp the opposing Toad, or whatever's coming in. It has Flare Blitz to threaten a KO. It's really, really dangerous to deal with. And then the final mon that's worth mentioning is Fungus. It's got Spore, so Toedscool has competition now. You still have Giga Drain and Sludge Bomb to keep yourself healthy and hit Toedscool really hard. You still have Synthesis to keep yourself healthy. You have Regenerator. You're also a T-Spikes Absorber, which can be really annoying for Toedscool to deal with. And Toedscool can't break this over if you're playing it correctly. You still have to be wary of Earth Power decreasing your special defense and then opening you up. But being able to wear it down, possibly get a Sludge Bomb poison, meaning that it's going to be much worse off for the rest of the game, is exceedingly fantastic. Now we can get into the stuff that it's like a check, quote-unquote. It's just like, oh yeah, I mean, like, it kind of can. Kerbrawler, I think, is probably the most sturdy of all of these checks as a result of resisting knockoff, having a fast ice punch, getting up to 17 speed, which is really good because you either tie or outspeed it, so there you go. It's really hard for Toedscool to make too much progress on you because you also have Drain Punch. If you have a single bulk up or two, then it's really hard for it to break over, even if you're not running Ice Punch. It's very physically frail and doesn't like dealing with this, so you can threaten it out pretty reliably with Kerbrawler. You have Pawniard, which Toad doesn't like switching into, but you can get hit really hard by Earth Power, your stab combination just doing so well. And you can also get rid of rocks because you have Rapid Spin, so there's all that stuff. Like, Pawniard can take one, but it would prefer not to, and it's really hard for it to hit your Toedscool super effectively, so. And you may be thinking, well, what about the Ghost types, you know? Because they can just take grass and ground type moves because, well, Drifloon's Ghost Flying. It has resistance and the immunity because of the flying type. And then Gastly is a poison type, so it doesn't mind the Giga Drains, and it has Levitate, so it doesn't worry about the ground type moves. Well, that's where Knockoff comes in. And congratulations, although you may upset Unburden, well, now you use it. You use up the one utility that Drifloon has of being able to have the Unburden speed boost, and now it's significantly worse off as a result. You can switch into anything that takes one of its hits, like Wattrel over here doesn't really mind it. You can have Glimmet as well. So there's that kind of stuff. And it can be hard for Drifloon to get progress. It's like, oh, well, I blocked the spin. Well, now you're terribly crippled. You don't have your Oranberry recovery. And you just sort of have to deal with that. And if you have rocks in your field, it's going to be worn down even more. So it's not a fun time. Same with Gastly. It does not appreciate getting knocked off at all. Although you can stay in Will-O-Wisp, and you can kind of take one depending upon attack investment, it's not fantastic. Like, it can really hurt, and you don't want to use up your Tier King just so that way you can get off a burn on a Pokemon that may or may not even mind it. It's quite the coin flip. Then the final one is Wattrel, because it's got some good stabs. And I'm saying that this is very conditional check, and the reason for that is you're weak to rocks, and that can be really hampering. You have to hit Hurricane, and Hurricane, it's a good move because it's 110 base power, but oh my lord, I have missed so many of them. So many of them because it's such a bad chance to hit. It's so awful. Now, with that being said, it can roost off some damage. It can take either of Giga Drain or Earth Power really well because it's immune to one and resists the other. It has to be wary around Spore, but it doesn't really mind it all that much. Like, it's not the end of the world if this gets Spored, you know? Especially because Toad has a lot of, like, it can't really make too much progress versus it, but because of the unreliability of Hurricane and, like, the reliance on that, it can be really annoying to actually get a lot of progress versus Toedscool via Wattrel. Now we have all that. What do you actually hit? Because, you know, like, we have the viability rankings here. What exactly are we looking to hit with Toedscool? And the answer is, a lot. You know Diglett? You know the Diglett that's been terrorizing Little Cup ever since Generation 4? And it's been excellent in every single generation? Well, congratulations. You're a pretty reliable check to that, barring Terra. Magnemite hates being locked into Volt Switch and Volt Switching into your Toedscool. That's really bad for it. You also have, like, it can Terra Blast Ice, and that's fine. But with that being said, it has to use up Terra in order to break over it, which can be really annoyed. So, there's that. You're wonderful versus Mudbray. You get to take Earthquake really well. For whatever reason, you're really heavy, so Heavy Slam doesn't even do 120 on base power. It's very stupid, very dumb. And also, you get to actively, even if it does Terra Steel to boost its Heavy Slams, well, it's fine because you still have Earth Power. And if it stays as a ground type, then you can use Giga Drain, or Power Up for that matter. Does way too much damage for Mudbray to handle. It's really nice. The other spinner that's here, Quaxly, hates seeing Grass type moves. And I was like, oh, well, you know, it's got Terra type Grass. Well, yeah, but the problem is also, it has to run Liquidation in Encore. Brave Bird got phased out of the set because Encore was such good utility versus so many matchups that having the Brave Bird as your coverage move was just not worth it. As a result, it's really hard for Quaxly to make progress without Terra. All of this is like forced Terra, and it's really hard to deal with. You have Glimmet, which really hates the fact that well, Toads can really easily just spin on you, ignore toxic debris, ruin Stealth Rock, and the best thing that you have to threaten it is Sledge Bomb, and unless you get the poison, it's only doing like 30, 40-ish%, and it can handle that really well, especially because you can just die to Earth Power immediately afterwards. So there's that. You deal with mini Pex. Oh, it's so nice being able to deal with mini Pex. Sometimes it feels so unkillable, but you can really easily just knock plus Earth Power it, and then it's crippled for the rest of the game. You don't have to worry about it. It's really nice. And then that's not even the end of it. You have Shellos. It does have Ice Beam, but it doesn't really like taking Giga Drains at all. You can also Terra type out of your weakness, so it's whatever. Tinkatink is really unreliable as a result of just dying to Earth Power. It needs to use Terra and or slot Ice Hammer over Play Rough. Ice Hammer isn't bad, but it ruins a lot of your other matchups that you would otherwise really like to have. So there's that. But with that being said, like, it's very, very vulnerable to it, and Toad can just spin away any of the rocks that you have. You hard counter Sandygast because your special defense is so high, you just get free Giga Drains into it all day, and it's really hard for Sandygast to deal with. And even if you're running Terra-type Water, so that way you can get full advantage of Water Compaction, you can't even Terra into a type that deals with it all that well. Oh, God. And then Fuecoco is Knock plus Earth Power weak. Have to use up Terra on your defensive Mon, which it really doesn't want to take. And it can really easily be broken over as a result. If you're doing Terra-type Water, well then you just die to Giga Drain. Once again, you can Terra to defeat it. And then Voltorb gets super annoyed on it because it has no coverage outside of electric moves and normal type. As a result, you need to run Terra Blast Ice if you want to have any sort of progress with Voltorb, and that could be really annoying. And there's probably even more there that you're really good versus if you look into the viability rankings. It's really... You can even consider Pawniard a good matchup if you want to. You're good versus Surskit because you can spin. You're good versus Rain because you can Terra type, as well as use Giga Drain, as well as use Spore. You're kind of okay versus Zorua. You can have a pretty alright matchup versus Grievard if you're using the special set, as well as it hating to get knocked. You've got a good matchup versus Gothita if you have enough attack investment and doesn't always want to come in on you anyway. You're good that you can prevent setup from Shelder and Choodle because they're very... Well, they're water types, so you can hit them with your Grass Stab. All that sorts of stuff. It's so fantastic versus such a large swath of the metagame. It's so crazy. And even if we look at Little Cup Winter League Week 3, and then just look down at a few of these games, I have them open already, but like... Oh, look, it's on both sides. Oh, look, it's on one side. Oh, look, it's on both sides. Oh, look, it's on both sides. Oh, look, it's on one side. It's just all over the place, and it's so hard to justify. Even if I go back to... Yep, this game. And the reason why it's important is because, oh, well, if I want to have the benefits of Toedscool, which is a Spore Absorber and or a Setter, as well as a Spinner, Handpeel has to run Quaxly and Fungus in order to be able to recreate the defensive prowess of Toedscool plus Mare, and it's really hard to do because Quax is so infinitely worse in the Gastly meta. It just gets burned and then it's basically useless. And Fungus is a bit of a liability because Gothita exists, and it's really hard to deal with. I like Mini Peck significantly more, and if we go back to it, it gets Haze, so it at least can remove that, and that's perfectly fine. It still does lose to Encore Quax, but it's significantly better off in that matchup versus Gothita than Fungus, because at least it can do something. You can also do Terra-type Ghost if you want to, because I hate Gothita. I don't know why it's still in there, but it's really annoying to deal with. And you still also have the trapping capabilities of Diglett and Gothita to supplement it, so you can put a whole bunch of pressure on your opponent's mons that would otherwise demolish Toad. It's really, really crazy. Did I use it? Oh, I did use it on my match, but I didn't. It's not really the star of the show, honestly. But it's really important, like, you cannot understate how fantastic Toedscool is over all of these games. I'm pretty sure if I just, like, pick out another random one, did Voltex use it? Yes, it's on both sides again! I can't escape! It's like the new... It's almost the tier king at this point, if I'm being honest. It's so good all the time. I should probably watch that match again if I think about it. It's a really nice one. But it's just on so many teams all the time. It's almost Girafarig levels, I would say. Rivaled only by Gastly, but it's just so good all the time. It's so hard to justify not using Toedscool. It's just like, oh, well, what about using Fungus? Oh, well, I can use Fungus, but then the problem is that I don't have a spinner. I can get trapped by Gothita, and it's not immune to electric type attacks. Oh, well, what if I want to use Quaxly as my spinner? Well, okay, well that means that I have a Spore weak. It loses to Toad if I don't have the Rapid Spin up, and it needs to run Brave Bird to win that 1v1, which is worse off in a whole bunch of other matchups. It's just so hard to justify not using Toad because there's so little knockoff users as well. If we go to knock, it's the best move in Little Cup, and there's only 7 Mons that get it. And Toad is the best one, even though it's got a terrible attack stat. It's the best one because of all the defensive capabilities it brings to the table. Second best one, Zorua. I'm not gonna... Like, there's no question of how good it is because you can run Eevee Light set or Twist Scarf set. But as a result, having Toad is just so fantastic. It's so hard to justify anything else. And he'll have a good matchup versus, like, your supposed checks, like, oh, well, you know, Gastly deals with the stab combination. Will get knocked off, idiot. Pawnier deals with knockoff. Get Earth-powered, idiot. And it requires a Terra to get rid of. So, if Terra leaves, it might become broken. Oh, no. Oh, no. I don't want to think about that. Oh, boy. Alright, so with that being said, Toedscool is very, 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 very... very good. Dear Lord, help us all. Oh, thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could like, share, and subscribe, that would be awesome. Comment down below what other mons you want me to go over. Or just, if you want me to go over lower tiers, if you want me to go over a specific playstyle, such as hyper offense, that kind of stuff, just let me know. I really appreciate any and all engagement you guys can give me. It's been a ride. Thank you all very much, and have a good day.